Waiting for Hashrocket. There we are. We are live. Oop,
Nice.
let me turn that off so I don't hear my voice. All right. Today is Friday, November 20th. Let the show and tell commence. Who's up?
Who is up?
Uh-oh. I
Nobody
guess I,
signed up in Slack today, so maybe we don't have anybody with something that's very prepared, but maybe we got
all
some.
participants and no providers.
Yeah.
I have something I can show and tell, I guess. Two things, maybe. Two things. Um, Let me share my screen. You guys see it? So first thing is not code related. Um, I got an email from Heroku this week saying that their ACN, the automatic certificate management, is it ACM automatic? Automated certificate management. Uh, they're gonna have they use Let's Encrypt to do that, and it looks like Let's Encrypt is changing how the certificates are generated, and that creates some incompatibility with Android phones prior to version 7.11, which is 34% of the current active Android devices out there. So I don't know what's the issue with Android, but it looks like if you have like an app or a browser on your Android phone that access a server that's being hosted on Heroku and it is using ACM, you might get like a certificate error. So they have like what you have to do. So the option would be like to now buy a certificate, right, from like a trusted signee place, and then you disable ACM, and then you manually manage your certificates. So the downside is like you have to renew it, like you have to manage that now. So in my case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just not use my own domain and just gonna use like appname.herokuapp.com. Like my mobile app will connect to the backend through herokuapp.com domain. They say here if you have a private space, you then you have the same problem. So you're gonna have to manage your own certificates. So if anybody that's watching this, if they have Android phones, like apps and that's connecting to like a Heroku backend using ACM, you might gonna have to do some changes starting January 11, 2021. All right, that was first one. So second, all right, so this is a feature that I recently built. I had right when the pandemic started, um, we had some coaches reaching out to us to build like a leaderboard, a competition inside the app, and we did that. We had this competition called Row Battles where we built like a leaderboard, and then you could like see positions, like who was first, second, third, and you can like filter by age, like gender, like weight classes. So we did all that like back in March, I guess. And recently, some coaches reached out to see if it was possible to have like a ranking, the same idea of a leaderboard, but just for a single workout. So when we did this feature back in March, this was not for like a single workout, it's like a bunch of workouts. We did this like in a week, 2 weeks. So the code that was created for this is not something that can be reused for other types of leaderboards. So this is really custom for multiple workouts. It's like a specific way of creating the ranking because you need to know like gender, like weight classes, ages, and like affiliation, like a bunch of things. So I decided to create like a regular dashboard just per workout. So like, for example, this is like a test workout that I have. I have 3 results here. I click leaderboard. And I kind of see like the same screen, but I only have like a few filters, like gender and this filter here. And this filter here is what I want to talk about today. So the idea is I'm sorting these results by let me see if I understand here. This is not the most, but the idea is I'm sorting by who was the fastest first, right? Who was the fastest one is the person that's on the top. So the way I did this is, so first of all, like my data model, right? So I have this table here that's called workout results. And like each result record has like a bunch of attributes. And the intervals, right? Like each workout has a bunch of intervals, and each interval is being stored in a JSON-B field using, right, the regular JSON-B type on Postgres. But it's actually an array of JSON-Bs. So when I'm like filtering by all intervals, I don't care about this JSON-B thing. Like I'm just sorting by who had whatever the lapse time, like the fastest, right? Who has the minimum elapsed time is the one at the top. And like for intervals is a little different because it's a JSON-B column, right? So like when I say interval 1, it returns who was the fastest on the first interval. So I learned that you can do something like this. So you can, because it's an array of JSON-Bs, you can have this syntax like intervals, open square brackets, and the index you want to access. So one thing that in Postgres is, at least for the JSON-Bs, I'm not sure about or the arrays, it starts at index 1 and not 0. So this is how you access your JSON-B arrays. So you do like intervals, brackets, 1. I don't know if that's too small for you guys to read. Then you do like an arrow, like dash greater sign, and then quotes, and then the field, right, on the JSON. This is just the select, but the same applies for the order by, right? So I'm doing that on the other by. So intervals 1, elapsed time, and then you have like to cast to numeric. If you don't do this, I'm not sure if like you will sort as a string or you get an error. It looks, well, maybe it worked. Maybe you don't need the numeric. It worked the same here. So yeah, this is how I end up sorting JSON-B. One thing that I also had to do in my final implementation was, there are like 2 types of intervals. One interval is type distance, and the other interval is type time. So when the interval is time, the score, right, the rank is based on, well, if the interval is time, is based on distance. But if the interval is distance, the score is based on time, right? So let's say like if the interval is like 1,000 meters, the fastest person is the one that complete that in the less amount of time, right? So like I completed in 5 minutes and Polito completed in 10. So I'm rank number 1, and Polito number 2. So
That's right, Polito.
yeah. But like, how would I do this logic here, like in the order by, right? Like, how would I make sure, like, if the interval type, I could do like a case, right? Like a regular case on Postgres. So depending on the type, it changed the order. But what I did is I end up like doing this. If I divide the elapsed time by elapsed distance, it doesn't matter if it is time or distance, because this is like getting your speed, right? Who was the fastest? Like divide time by distance. Doesn't matter if my interval is time or distance. Dividing those two metrics gets me who was the fastest. So that was something I was, when I realized this, I was like, wow, that totally makes sense. I don't know if this is the most optimal thing because you're dividing and ordering by. If you have maybe thousands or 100,000 of records, that might be a problem. But so far, I only have like those workouts. They only have like maybe 50 or 100 results. So yeah, that was really nice. Like how to access the array with the brackets and then the division. And if you look at Ecto, so I'm doing this with Elixir. So I'm using like a fragment here. So I do fragments and I have the question marks here for the like my placeholder of the table, right? The namespace of the table. And this is exactly what I'm doing, like compose query when it's an interval. I get the index. The index is the interval plus 1 because it starts at 1, and it's like an order by elapsed time divide by elapsed distance, and there's like a second order by that whoever finished first. As you could like some people could do like the workout today, other people could do the workout tomorrow, and I decided that whoever finished first, like for the draw, right? Who, if they have the same result, who wins? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like this module takes care of the whole workout leaderboard. It's just a bunch of like composing queries in Ecto. Yeah, I think that's it. That was my show and tell for this week. Thank you, everyone.
I think that you have to cast it to numeric if you have data of different types in that elapsed time space.
I think
right? Because
I
if you have
remember.
like a
Yeah.
because
No,
it's
you're right.
okay, but in
One
this
thing that,
case, it's all the same.
no, yeah, but now I remember why I have to cast. If I don't cast on the division, let me show you. I'm gonna on the division, right? It's gonna be an integer and not a float. Um, oh, yeah. So if I don't cast here, so I'm dividing elapsed distance by elapsed time. Why did I like this? Not sure. No operator must be giving names. Oh, I think I gotta put a parenthesis there.
Isn't that backwards? Are you not trying to calculate speed?
Yeah, it's speed.
Well, then that's like miles per hour, not hours per mile, right?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like
Oh,
I'm
it's
not
the same
displaying.
for
Yeah, exactly.
ratio, right?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
you're not
ratio.
displaying the number?
Yeah, I'm not displaying, it's just like ordering. So, but in rowing it's not speed. It's usually what's your time per 500 meters in rowing.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's it's kind of confusing because when you see your numbers when you're rowing, you're like, oh, the slowest the number, it means the fastest you are, right?
Right.
Because it's so I kept the same logic as the rowing because that's how we are used to see the metrics.
Right.
But yeah, but it doesn't matter. But I'm not sure why it's not. But I remember that like when I did this, I had to do the numeric because when I was doing the division, the result was an integer. I don't know why. It was like um,
You were doing integer division. Yeah, like how do you
yeah,
trigger float division in
yeah,
in SQL?
Right. You
yeah.
gotta cast them to
So I
floats.
cast to numeric, and that seems to resolve the issue. But I don't know why it's not working the select here. Maybe.
That's like I think a Postgres 12 feature. I know that on one of my clients, you can't cast from a JSON B value straight to a number. You have to take a pit stop
Oh,
at a string before you can make it a number.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's
I don't know which
before.
version I have here. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's weird, right, Brian? Because he's using the single arrow, right? The
Right.
single feather, the feathered arrow right there,
Yeah.
right? If you do two right there, then you return something that's a type of JSON B, right?
No, it's the
It's the
inverse.
opposite.
no.
Double arrow gives you a text back, and single arrow gives you it remains a JSON B that you can now in 12 and above you can cast straight to a number.
Oh, so you're saying because Gabe is on post 12, it
Right.
doesn't really matter. Like it used to be that he would have to do the double arrow. You would have had to do the
Right.
double arrow and then cast to numeric.
Right.
Oh,
But now you can cast
interesting.
straight to numbers from JSON B, which totally should have been there from the beginning because JSON supports numeric data types. So
Right. But I spent all this time trying to figure out a mnemonic for one arrow versus two arrows. So are you telling me I can
both
throw that away? I can just throw that away?
sure. Two arrows is text, and they both start with T.
Oh, two arrows is text. Okay.
T for
Two
text.
arrows for types.
Types. Oh
Type things, right?
no, I
Primitive
mean
types.
that'd be cool if a double arrow on a number field gave you a number, but it doesn't. It will give you a string of the number.
What? Wait, no, because then you're returning a JSON B type then.
Single arrow is always JSON B. Double arrow is always string.
But you're saying even if the value in that particular JSON B slot is a number
Double arrow
and
will
you
give you a
access it
string.
via double arrow, it's going to return as a string.
Yep.
That's messed up. Okay.
I know. It's dumb. Always cast to type text.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working, but whatever.
What is it
Yeah,
that
it
you're
was.
trying to? Oh.
No, I'm trying to do the division here,
So
but on the select,
if you
just
cast both sides to numeric, does that work?
to numeric. Yeah.
Yeah, both sides of the division. Right, and you have to put it on it's a lower bind, so that's correct. It's you have to put the parens around the whole expression before the cast, or else you're casting the string to numeric. So you're doing it right. I think you had a
Oh,
syntax
they are.
error.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
do you not have to cast? I think you have to cast both sides of the division sign, so that one also would need to be cast. Yeah. Right. I think that should work.
Yeah, but it's in column.
Huh.
Oh no, that's a different error. No. It's intervals. My bad.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, it says no perimeter union. Yeah.
You must you might need to add
Yeah.
explicit typecasts.
Yeah. But for some reason I wasn't doing numeric, but it was working.
Hmm.
But I think it wasn't. I think you're right. It was just like a string maybe, or like a JSON-B thing. And
It could be that the division, if they're both JSON-B coerces, I don't know.
yeah, but whatever. Yeah, so the division was the thing that made me realize, okay, this is not too complicated. But I don't know if it's the most performant because I'm not, like, it's doing a calculation right on the field, on the JSON-B field. Like if you have like thousands and thousands of records.
If you want to, you can put an index on
An
those
index, yeah.
expressions, JSON-B expressions.
Okay.
You could actually put an index on them already being cast. You can put the numeric cast in the index, so the index will contain the number
Oh,
forms.
that's good to know. I might, once I get there, once I have thousands and thousands.
Yeah, that'll be champagne problem.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Nice. Did you so does anybody have show and tell besides Gabe?
I got one, a very silly one to follow up on Matt's Internet of Things thing. Shall I go? Cool. Let me see. I'm gonna share just this. So it's a little bit scary because I'm sharing my personal cell phone. Might need some edits. I don't want to give away the URL to my house. So we have this baby camera, and the issue with it is that it's like it's always sending messages or notifications, like because there's a sound notification on it. So the notifications are coming in like all the freaking time. So what I wanted to do is make it only send notifications if you turn the physical nightlight on the baby camera. It's got a nightlight button. So I want to be able to easily, like with my hand, turn on and off notifications. Otherwise, I just like don't even pay attention to them because they're just going off all the time. And there's no feature like that built in. So I hacked it and together. And the way that I did that is fun. So the first thing I had to do is go. Well, the first thing is I wanted there to be a separate notification in HomeKit for the sound detection specifically. So I've got that here. Now it has 2 motion sensors. By default, it's an Arlo, it's HomeKit compatible, but by default it only adds the motion sensor. But I got it to add the audio sensor, and the way I did that was I got, so if this then that has a Arlo thing, and it has the audio detection. So it doesn't expose audio sensing to HomeKit directly, but it does expose it to if this then that. So I connected the audio sensor to if this then that, and then I set up a URL to go to, yeah, I already faked this, so I don't have to give it away. So, because otherwise you guys would kill my Raspberry Pi possibly. So this, I have a dynamic DNS set up for my home internet. So it makes a call straight to my Raspberry Pi, punched a hole in my firewall. And I'm using a plugin. So see, this says, accessory ID, and then you can put the name. My daughter's name is Jane. So this is Jane Audio, and the state is true. So that's going to, set a new state for that accessory. And so I'm using this plugin in home bridge. Log in. And the plugin is here. So the plugin is webhooks, which has, you can actually do all of this programming on your phone. Like, so the webhook with this UI stuff that they have, Homebridge, when it works, super sweet. So there you can see the port. Well, that's a bummer, but you don't know the URL. I don't know why I'm so anxious about that. It's just my poor little pie. So yeah, I set up on here a motion detector called Jane Audio, and it turns on and off after 300 seconds or 300 milliseconds. It will turn back off. So and this works when there's sound. Now you have this motion detector going off in HomeKit. So that's cool. So now I have more notifications than before. That's not really the direction I was trying to go. So how do I get fewer notifications? I did this with automation. So I muted all the notifications that come from the Arlo app itself. And then I wrote these automations inspired by Polito. So when motion is detected in the nursery, we do a shortcut. So this one is, yeah, this is the regular motion detector, not the audio one. And the shortcut says, get the state of the night light. And if it's in the powered on state, then hit this pushcut URL. And pushcut is a thingy that I'll show you. So, and then get contents of the URLs is how you make it actually execute the web request. So, and I'm in this if block here. And I've got the exact same thing set up for the audio one, but with a different URL for the notification and the shortcut. My children are yelling at me. Oh, thanks for finding my keys. I'm doing a thing on the internet right now. So you're on camera. Hi. Bye. They found my keys. That's great. So this is, yeah, the audio one, and it's exactly the same thing, but here it's, the URL is Jane Audio instead. Get contents of URL if the nightlight is on. So then let's look at pushcut. Now the missing feature in pushcut is family stuff. So I'm thinking about redoing this again because now I have really nice subdued notifications, and my partner Sarah has twice the notifications that she did before. But I get this notification that says hear this baby, and it's got the action is Arlo : / which when you click the notification, it'll open the camera directly from there. And they come up on my watch too, and it works there. And this one's different. It's the baby moved. So I can test the notification, and yeah, it looks like that. And then you can hit open, and there's the baby. So that's how I hacked in a easy way to arm and disarm the motion detectors on my baby camera. Any questions?
That was a good hack. You didn't have to write any code, right?
Yeah, I did all the programming on my cell phone.
Nice. Anybody got anything else?
I can show off a small little thing.
Alrighty.
Let me move some things here. Da-da-da-da. Share that screen. Turn that stuff off. No. Okay. No. Off. Oh, that works. All right. Let's see if I make that bigger. So, the grand next gen race, as far as gaming and graphics cards, has been a real poop show this year, with NVIDIA releasing amazingly powerful cards, but no one can get a hold of them. Then the PlayStation pre-order snafus, and then actual selling of them. No one can get a hold of these things. And it turns out that bots are just taking all of the stock. And so luckily I was able to get a hold of a few things manually. but it is becoming more difficult now that more people know that bots are a viable option for a lot of stores. So I had to build one myself, because it's more of a treasure hunt for me than anything else. I'm not trying to acquire things and sell them. I'm just trying to make sure that like my friends that want things can have them too. So I built this little stock check script using Kimori, which is a scraping, I think it's a scraping framework, but it's more like a web crawler or spider. Kimori, let's see. Bring this over. It is, what do they say? Modern web scraping framework. It's basically just a wrapper around Nokogiri, Capybara, and some headless browsing. So what can I do with that? Well, the way this works, I believe it was built so that you could give it some starting URLs, and then once you are there, you would then look for something and then continue down that path, like a web crawler. That's not what I wanted to do. I just had a list of URLs that I needed to look at and then look at a piece of criteria on that page to decide whether or not something was in stock. So I went about it a little bit differently. The crawler, originally I had a crawler for every store, and that did work, but it starts up a new browsing instance for all of the stores, and was not only was it a bit slower, but it was eating up a lot of memory. Like I woke up this morning to 23 gigs of swap. So I'm surprised my computer made it through the night, but it auto shut down as soon as I sat down at it. But I readjusted it so that each store could have a list of URLs, and then it looks at those. The same thing to do originally would be this, where you have URLs, you look at the URLs, and then based on the URLs, you somehow know what the criteria is to look for. But I couldn't find a great way to get the kind of store it was into the way this framework is set up. I ended up finding that you could pass some information into this final data call here. But so you have a crawler, which is Kimori, and then basically it just says, hey, I need starting URLs, and then parse, that's your entry. So parse initially, just by the time you get here, you're already looking at a URL. I don't care about what that URL is, so I just put example.com. According to the code, you can pass it nothing, and it will get here immediately without doing anything else. I did not find that to be the case, and I didn't feel like spelunking through their code to figure it out, so this is my workaround. Anyway, we just loop through all of the kinds of stores that I have to look at, grab the URLs, and then make a request to all of them. And each store pretty much is just, hey, here's a list of URLs. And then this is how I can determine whether or not they're in stock using basic, Capybara stuff that we would use for testing. So like this one, if I'm on Sam's Club, I know that something is in stock if there is a button that has an ARIA label of add to cart. Because JavaScript does weird things to pages on load and can vary per page. Normally I wouldn't look at an ARIA label, but in this case that was the thing that was the same across the board. So then all of these stores act the same way. I just check to see whether or not something's in stock, and then we come here. So every URL gets requested, and then it says go ahead and check page. Check page just says, hey, that store that you told me about, call in stock with the browser instance, which is a Capybara session at this point. And if it is in stock, just open it, like straight from the command line. And because it's a URL, it's going to open in my default browser. So I'm not dealing with any like weird, I'm not trying to like auto buy something. That's not the point of this. So there's no complex, you know, I need a session and I need to be able to log in and click all the things. Just pop up. And that was good. And then I remembered Pushover, which is a service that was kind of started around when If This Then That came out for people to do push notifications. I'm like, that would be a great idea, so I don't have to babysit this thing. So now, if something is in stock, not only does it open, but it sends me a push notification immediately, which I can now get on my watch if I'm away from the computer, which has worked out really well because I was down the hall. I happened to, in my side view, saw that a browser window popped up, and in that same instant, I got a notification on my phone, which also has the URL. So if I was not near the computer, I could pop it open immediately and take action. So this is a simple way for me to combat people with probably more sophisticated bots, but this works for me.
Did it work? Did you buy one?
It has not successfully worked for me, but I wrote it last night. So, but I've tested it with all the different stores, so I know that it does work. I had some false positives with the PlayStation Direct store because they're not necessarily throttling people, but every once in a while you'll be taken to a page that wants CAPTCHA. So that was an interesting one because I can make positive assumptions for most pages. Like, it is in stock if this thing is there. But the PlayStation Store is not like that. It says out of stock on the page. So I can actually show you because it was a mildly interesting problem. Oh, well, here's a perfect example. Normally, the URL that I'm going to is the product page for the PlayStation. Occasionally, the nice thing about Sony is they do a queuing system. So you wait in the queue, and then you have, if you're chosen at the queue, when it's your turn, you get 10 minutes to place an order. A lot of times they're already out of stock by the time you get to your place, but at least it's sane and like you're not overloading their system like every other store. But occasionally you'll get this screen, which is, hey, just, I don't know, we're slowing you down, do this CAPTCHA. So I had to do a negative assertion on this page. So it's like, I say, all right, well, I'm looking for a page that doesn't say out of stock. But this page also doesn't say out of stock. So I was getting notifications thrown up every few minutes because I'm, occasionally hitting this page. They may actually have something going on right now. Oh, here we go. Bridges. So I've been doing a lot of CAPTCHAs lately. These are interesting.
There's wait in the center. The one in the center.
Yeah.
You're gonna miss.
Is that a bridge? I don't know.
Oh my god, you were almost
I got one that said like
this is suspenseful.
click all chimneys or something. There was no chimneys on it whatsoever, but there was like a light post, and I'm like, what are we saying here?
Chimney is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
No, this is dumb. Why would they have? Oh, that's PlayStation 4.
Yeah. So normally I'm going to this page. Of course, this says out of stock, so I can assert for that, or at least assert that it's not that. But then occasionally you get the queuing page, which I also don't care about.
That looks like it's straight out of Aperture Laboratories.
Yeah. Have you seen one in
No.
Semi-Person? They're gigantic. So I got one. I was able to get one for Cardi. And I got the shipping manifest for it, and it was like 18 pounds. I was like, Cardi, this is 18 pounds. He's like, holy crap.
Do you want a 2-year-old or a gaming system?
Yeah, that's a big boy. All right, so that's what I was working on last night.
Why don't
You
they
know
just use like market pressures? Why doesn't this just cost $4,000?
$4,000. Well,
Because somebody
right
would
now,
buy all the ones they have.
the aftermarket market is up there. So
I mean,
they're 800 plus at the moment.
is it just like frowned upon? Like, why don't things cost what people will pay? I thought that's what capitalism was for.
Pandemics are weird.
Yeah.
People pay a lot of money for the weirdest things. I don't know.
Yeah. I have a quick joke about the size of that thing. Do you remember the
Yes.
movie 2001: A Space Odyssey at the beginning with the
Yeah.
obelisk coming
Yeah.
down? PS7.
Yeah. That's
Year gains a few pounds.
that's
Right.
that's what the Xbox looks like.
Right. I have a quick one, really quick. It's more of because it's not really impressive at all. It's just like a direction I'm going in rather than like a something that's impressive. This is my current notebook, right? I'm doing Julia and math at the same time. So I'm trying to see. I'm dealing with like simple matrices right now. And this is the calculation for a determinant for a matrix. This is my matrix. It's called A. This is the calculation for a determinant. But there's a linear algebra library that can do this for you. And so this is the result from the linear algebra library. There's a floating point error there, obviously, which is a little frustrating because I don't have any floating points in my matrix. But yeah, and also this can probably do matrices that are larger than just 2 by 2, which is, my calculation is just a calculation for a matrix of 2 by 2. Yeah, so just getting into that. Another thing I'm trying to learn about is row echelon form. The row echelon form for this matrix up here is 1.0, 0, 0, 1.0. It's always reduced row echelon form is always trying to get you into this 1.0 diagonal
Isn't that also identity?
matrix, which is also the identity, right? And I don't know how those two concepts interrelate yet, but hopefully I'll get there. Yeah, so there's a package that does row echelon for you. But it's what I don't get about row echelon is that it's always like this is basically always the result, no matter what your inputs are. So right, like 1, 2, 4, 4, 7. Yup, that's it. How about what if we put a thousand, a large number in here, 11,000? Yup, it's still 1.0, 1.0. So I don't get that. I don't get that. If everything's just always in row echelon form, if you feed it through the algorithm. In the examples, they had one very like fragile example of a thing that doesn't just go to a 1.0 diagonal. We have some 3 O's out over here, but if I change this to a 7, hey, it's we get into diagonals, the 1.0 dot diagonal. So I'm trying to figure out what all this row reduced row echelon form is all about and why it's useful. And that's where I am right now in terms of my linear algebra. That's it.
Sweet.
Thank you. Cool. Well, I think that's all of us. Suzanne, did you have a show and tell?
No,
Nope. All
just
right.
watch.
All right. Well, until next time, on behalf of Vidal, Brian, Matt, and Suzanne, this has been Show and Tell, and it is now shown and told. See you.